That's the sunny.
Whoa, that's a strong one.
Getting outside near the water is important for children and teenagers.
So over the past 20 years, there's been a growth where children have spent more time inside and also in front of multimedia tools, which are great, but that doesn't create the relationship that's really needed to foster an appreciation and love for the earth.
Research shows that spending time in the natural environment has physical and psychological benefits for children. One British study found that less than 20% of the youth in that country were spending time outdoors. Education specialists at the Stroud Water Research Center in Pennsylvania say they see a difference once kids start interacting with nature.
When they come, they're very excited, for one, but they really don't know how to be outside. They fear a lot of what's going on outside in the earth. They don't really know how to relate to nature and the environment. But after we've had them for about 4 hours, we can see a big transformation. They're a little bit more peaceful, more calm. They seem more grounded and more strong and just being outside.
Experts say time outdoors also sparks creativity. You could see that spark of imagination in the work of a young Camden girl who had the winning entry in a poster contest that featured messages on protecting water quality.
I want to tell people about water, that I think they should keep it clean, so some of it for us, it can be healthy for us to drink. I think we should have fresh water so our animals can stay alive.
But getting out there near lakes, rivers, or streams, especially in some urban areas, may be tough. Camden County, New Jersey is heavily developed. Several streams and rivers run through the region.
Well, they're just forgotten parts of the city. Historically, they were used as dumping grounds or they were industrial backyards. And it's only in recent years, I think, that people have started to appreciate them for what they have to offer.
Mike Fernandez is writing a book about canoeing the rivers and streams in New Jersey. He says a lack of access is a problem you find in many cities. An example, this spot along the Cooper River in Camden.
It certainly seems like it would be nice. The riverbank is relatively gentle here compared to other places. But on the way in, it's posted against trespassing, no unauthorized vehicles allowed. So I suspect we're trespassing at the moment.
There may also be a hesitance among some children and teens to explore the open spaces near their homes.
Like people, they would want that space to themselves, and like if you try to go in there, like some people, they wouldn't allow you to go in there.
Faith Croma lives near the Cooper River, and despite the visible neglect, has developed a personal connection with the waterway.
Because it's where I live and it's a part of my community. And it also has a lot of history behind it, so you get to learn a lot. So learning is really important.
The Urban Trekkers program in Camden works to reconnect youth with waterways by getting them involved with boat building.
Camden has such a rich history of boat building, and it's a city born of the water, and it was just like, my gosh, why hadn't somebody already done this before?
Walnut.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And then the bottom is a plywood. It's an akume plywood. It's a tree that is fast growing in Africa. Very few branches, and so there's no knots or rings or any of that kind of stuff. So
more than building boats, it's about really building character and seeing the transformation that takes place in the young people throughout that process.
Mira, don't do that.
Another important result, the participants gain a different perspective on where they live.
I didn't even look at them the way that I look at them now before I was a part of this program. So for example, on my bus route, there's a tower and there's a bridge, and only thing I thought about it as was away on my bus ride to school. But I went with Jim on a boat paddling trip, and we went on the boat under. We went under it, and I realized that this place looked familiar. And once I realized that this was my bus route, but I was actually rowing under it, I just thought about where I live in a different way.
The U.S. Census Bureau shows population shifting back to the cities. More people will be seeking access to green spaces. There are a number of efforts underway to improve access to places such as this in urban areas. A waterfall or stream like this can be hypnotic. Areas such as this can provide a getaway for some children and teens.
someplace calm, someplace nice, someplace where we could just hang out with other friends.
It's important for like some teenagers because like in Camden, like a lot of people, they used to like stay in their house when they were kids, but now since like they're teenagers, they want to like go out and like be other places other than their home.
Unfortunately, access can often be difficult. Residents who live along the Delaware River in Trenton are now cut off from the river by a highway tunnel, and local officials in Delanco are locked into a legal struggle to preserve a waterfront property targeted for dredge spoil disposal. In some areas, mandated homeland security measures may also be reducing access.
Right.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. Good.
But there are some encouraging signs. A number of projects are underway to help provide those getaway places. In August, a groundbreaking was held for a project that will help link sections of South Camden with the Delaware River. The Camden County Municipal Utilities Authority and several other government agencies and nonprofit groups are working to turn this former factory site into a riverfront park by next spring. When completed, the 5-acre Phoenix Park will provide residents with a green oasis along a highly industrialized section of the river.
And our hope also is to provide access from Liney Ditch Park all the way back to Phoenix Park, all the way to the river, so that in the near future the residents will be able to walk straight back from the community to see the river, to see a sunset, to see the beautiful Philadelphia skyline.
The new park will have a second benefit, reducing storm water runoff into the Delaware River. In another section of the city, a creek that was a tributary to the Delaware River is being restored. Baldwin's Run was filled in decades ago. That caused serious flooding in nearby Vonita Park in the Kramer Hill section of Camden.
Well, it's changing the landscape, but it's actually kind of restoring the landscape at the same time. This area was the former site of the Baldwin's Run tributary to the back channel of the Delaware River, which is right behind me. So this used to be, the low-lying stream area where stormwater would have ran straight out to the Delaware River. This park was filled in at some point in time, and so now there is no natural stream channel back to the Delaware. So by restoring the park and creating the natural areas for stormwater to go, we're actually recreating a section of the Baldwin's Run tributary by channelizing new stormwater outlets to the Delaware River. This neighborhood, which has about 2.5 miles of waterfront, has zero access to the Delaware River, which sits on the back channel right across from the beautiful Petty's Island. So this will be creating the very first point of access for this neighborhood through the creation of a boardwalk, which will overlook the stream.
But creating waterfront parks in urban areas may become more difficult in the future. A 2009 report on the state of the outdoors found that one of the biggest problems facing urban parks is that more and more land is being taken for residential and commercial development. The experience these areas offer have a long-term value that outweigh financial considerations.
Not like your normal life, like the busy rush. It's calmer, and it gives you more space to think. And then if you're with a lot of people that you know, that you have fun with, then it's a space you get to get closer to people with.
So I would say like it's important for them because it gives them a chance to like grow up on their own, with like their own space.
Having a relationship with the earth physically shows us too that we should, respect her in all ways and create a healthier environment for all of us physically on her land, but it also affects us mentally and physically to have a healthier and happier life too. So there's a big connection there with the earth and what she represents, and I think in all of us as well.
There are a number of youth programs underway with the goals of cleaning and improving the health of urban waterways.
So next, my friend Pollution Penny decides to drive off, and while she's driving off, guess what happens to her car? She has an oil spill.
Oh no, that's bad.
Students from the Center for Aquatic Sciences are using this display to teach children at an earth fair how motor oil and other pollutants get into waterways. Urban waterways, such as the Cooper River, often have higher levels of pollutants called volatile organic compounds.
You can think of that because there are more cars, there's more in industry in those areas, more emissions. Anything with our automobiles, as we're driving our automobiles, as the brakes wear down and as there's exhaust coming out of those automobiles, all that kind of creates volatile organic compounds that often get on the road and then get into the dust of the road, and when the rainstorm comes, washes off into your nearest storm drain.
A 2006 U.S. Geological Survey study found that 92% of the streams sampled in the Delaware River watershed had one or more volatile organic compounds in them.
In general, VOCs cause health impacts, right? Pregnant women, women of reproducing age have a very big concern of VOCs.
The Center for Aquatic Sciences students have also learned to monitor the health of the Cooper River. Pollutants from heavy development around the river have led researchers to call this waterway impaired. The students collect samples and check temperature, turbidity, pH, and other conditions.
I got 7, which is really good. For the pH, that's really good. The right number is 7.5, like for where the animals to live, so you don't want it to go higher because that's not safe for the animals, and then you don't want it to be lower because that's not safe. So around like 7 or 7.5 is like a good neutral number for the animals to live in, where animals can live.
Another problem, pet and animal waste that gets washed into rivers, lakes, and streams.
It actually causes bacteria in the water supply. So essentially, an example is Cooper River that has high levels of phosphorus and bacteria. That waterway has nutrients, and nutrients cause a dissolved oxygen plummet eventually through the water cycle. So essentially that can cause algae and other things to begin to grow, but when that algae dies, it robs the stream column of dissolved oxygen. It becomes an anaerobic situation, and then that's when you can have fish kills and other things. We've seen with Cooper River and historic data from our volunteer monitors that we were getting levels of phosphorus, for example, which again can be an indicator for fecal coliform and pet waste, as high as 3 milligrams per liter, which is very high. Usually when you have phosphorus, you want it 0.01, 0.02 milligrams per liter. So it's 100 times higher in the Cooper watershed.
Christopher Castillo is checking on nitrate levels and finds a significantly higher reading in this sample.
But it's still something that we would try not to have because it could still become hazardous to people's healths. And certain ways that you can go around that is using eco-friendly fertilizers.
There are other steps people can take to reduce their impact on water quality. Homeowners should use porous pavement material instead of coal tar sealants used on many driveways and roadways.
As that runs off, they found very high levels of volatile organic compounds in nearby streams, and in fact then they found impaired water critters that live there. Diversity really decreases from that coal tar seal coat.
Homeowners should also dispose of chemicals properly, check cars for oil or antifreeze leaks, use fertilizers sparingly, plant native plants instead of grassy lawns, and reduce the use of harmful pesticides.
Despite the heavy pollution loads, the students say they have seen conditions improve in the Cooper during the time they've spent along the banks of this river.
I'm not the type of I wasn't the type of outdoors person. So now I like being outside more, prefer than inside.
Children in urban settings too, we tend to think that there's no natural environment there, but actually there's wildlife all around us. In an urban setting, there's water, and so just maybe giving that outlet to children in an urban setting can make the most impact and difference.
The Morrisville Preserve sits in the shadows of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor rail line, but there's an unwanted guest here, Japanese knotweed.
It grows, it's a perennial plant, so it'll leave its sticks up in the air, but it'll die and it'll resprout very vigorously. What's really pernicious is it has roots that'll go 15 feet under the ground. So it will resprout vigorously and outcompete native plants.
The knotweed is found growing almost everywhere along the Delaware River. Volunteers with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network and Morrisville residents have been trying to eliminate the knotweed. Over 600 native trees have been planted to replace this invasive species. The trees hold the soil better and prevent erosion during flooding.
It excludes native species, and that's what a lot of the invasives do. They move in, they stop the native species, and a lot of our native birds and animals depend on the native species.
Knotweed is one of many invasive species damaging ecosystems. Another non-native plant causing problems is bittersweet. The vines grow all the way up into the canopy and bring down the trees. Burning bush is another invasive that's gone wild.
An invasive species, it spreads, it gets bird droppings from the seeds into other woodlands, and they just start up. And so much effort is put into removing this type of invasive species.
One rite of summer taking place at Newton Lakes in Camden County is part of an effort to eliminate an invasive species. These young anglers are using their fishing skills to get rid of snakehead fish. Biologists believe snakeheads from Asia were dumped into ponds on the East Coast. They have a ferocious appetite and have decimated the population of some native migratory fish. That eventually has an impact on water quality.
Not only for the fish population, but also, amazingly, for the mussels. Mussels get rejuvenated in a life cycle by attaching to fish. So if our native fish can't get up into these tributaries, that means the mussels slowly will degrade, they'll get old, they'll die off, and no new mussels will start. Now, mussels affect the water quality because they clean the water.
There are steps homeowners can take to avoid introducing invasive species into the environment.
Norway maple, don't buy those. Those are invasive from Norway. Another issue is aquariums. A lot of the plants that are sold for aquariums can also invade into our natural systems. There's known cases in many areas.
Removing invasive species and restoring natural habitat can also be expensive. Some estimates for the work are over $1 billion. Another type of people pollution that piles up in waterways is plastic, glass, and cans. You can see the problem during a weekend cleanup at Petty's Island in the Delaware River and along Peters Creek in Camden County. The plastic debris is eventually washed out to sea and breaks down into smaller particles. One recent study suggests there could be more than 5 trillion plastic particles floating at sea. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says marine life can either become entangled in or ingest plastic debris.
From what I know, it's not degradable. It's just going to stay there. How is it going to affect the environment, like the animals, if there are any around here?
Keeping areas such as a vacant city lot clean of litter is a concept youth participating in these cleanups are learning.
And it's a shame because we set up trash cans around the area so that you're able to dispose of the items that you use and you're finished using. And to be honest, it's quite frankly not doing so good.
Like, a lot of people don't understand the consequences of their actions.